In the late 90s, there were many rampant trends in the video game industry. From Pokemon to the Nintendo 64, many would dominate the market, but none would be as odd and fascinating as the Sakura Wars series. A fusion of the visual novel and strategy RPG genres, the franchise had somehow taken a hold of Japan with an iron grip and refused to let go. Anime, spin-offs, merchandise, and stage shows seemed to be bursting at the seams of the series, something that was rare in a franchise so young. The fantastical characters of the games had seemed to capture the eye of a nation, but with two hyper-successful entries in the series, the geniuses at Red Company had to find a way to continue the Sakura Wars mythos while staying true to its legacy. Their answer? It was time to go abroad. As always, new entries in new franchises take time to perfect, so Sega had to continue their long trek into other mediums. Out of the gates would come the sequel to the OVA Okakenran, Gokakenran, or the Radiant Gorgeous Blooming Cherry Blossoms. Coming out between December 1999 and December 2000, this OVA focuses on Ogami reminiscing about various events that took place during Sakura Wars 2 in anticipation for the new sequel. While contributing less to the mythos than Okakenran, Gokakenran would still provide fans with something as they waited for the sequel, and that wait would be long indeed. A dry spell for the series hit right after the commercially and critically acclaimed sequel. The Sega Saturn was on its last legs, and had already fallen off the video game console wagon worldwide. Japan was just the last to go. But this did not spell the end for the franchise. On the contraire, it was its saving grace. A mere 6 months after the sequel's release, Sega's latest entry into the console wars came about, the Sega Dreamcast. Boasting a cheaper price point and a brand new Sonic the Hedgehog game at launch, the system would far outsell its predecessor's dismal sales on the global market. With this new console in their hands, the team at Red Company would need further time to craft their sequel with the new technology. To keep fans interested for the time being, the first 2 entries in the franchise were poured over to the new system. Taking advantage of the new graphical horsepower, Sakura Wars looked better than ever before, and while selling less than the originals, the 2 redefined entries became staples in the console's lineup. This new technology was also a savior for the often beloved spin-off titles. A Sakura Wars renaissance was on hand, and what better way to start it off than with the one that started it all. Sakura Wars Hanagumi Taisen Columns 2, released at the turn of the century, would bring more of the falling blocks and lips type gameplay that fans had grown to love, with a few new added twists. Because of the new system, graphics were significantly upgraded from the original, with fancier animations included. Sakura Wars 2's editions of Orihime and Reni were also along for the ride, with the biggest twist of them all being online play. Because of the Dreamcast's brand new internet functionality, a first for a console, it was now possible to fight players over the now defunct SegaNet. The ultimately successful side series would lead to more bizarre ones. The most bizarre, you could say, was Ogami Ichiro Fontoki. The game had everything, lips dialogue, and the full cast of characters. The catch? It was all done in live action. This most interesting of side additions was in fact a fully interactable version of the Sakura Wars stage show, tasking you as Ogami with running a play and determining how the plot progresses. The Sakura Wars stage show was a fully blown phenomenon in and of itself, so it made sense to make a game of it. The game's surrealness of actors playing actors within a game dressing up as said characters led Ogami Ichiro Fontoki to become one of the most bizarre, yet one of the most fascinating entries in the franchise at large. The Dreamcast wasn't the only place for the Sakura Wars renaissance. Sometimes, even the biggest of competitors can play nice. And play nice they did, as Sakura Wars soon entered the handheld gaming market with Sakura Wars GB Hanagumi Nuntai. for Nintendo's very own Game Boy Color. Releasing in early 2000, the game would attempt to do the impossible and condense the Sakura Wars formula into a handheld format. But Sakura Wars doesn't know what impossible means and was able to achieve a similar experience to those of the main series. Casting you and not Ogami Ichiro as a member of the Hanagumi for a month, you were tasked with doing similar things in different ways. For one, tactical combat was thrown out completely in favor of a more Final Fantasy fare. You still have the same goal of managing your time wisely, but you also have to keep up your various stats, such as strength and intelligence. For a Game Boy Color title, the production values were stunning, rendering the series' art style and themes lovingly in 8-bit and chiptune, respectively. Not a year after, a sequel to this miniseries was released. Sakura Wars GB2 Thunderbolt Sakuzen would improve on the formula from the original and truly encapsulate the series in the palm of your hand. The finale to the spin-off Renaissance was a doozy in and of itself. Releasing just before the third entry to the main series, Sakura Wars Online would attempt to take the series' online ventures to new and greater heights. Comprising of less of the lips and kobu combat fans knew and love, the game was comprised of tabletop and mini-games, things that have been sideshows inside of the games themselves. All of these can be played online against other players or offline against the series' trademark heroes. All of this takes place in a bizarre amalgamation of Paris and Tokyo called Sakura Town. Every player gets his or her own personal room and customizable avatar to differentiate themselves from the crowd. While soon forgotten, the spin-off's ideas would echo the future of the franchise itself. Sakura Wars Online may have been the culmination of the spin-off territory, but the animation department said otherwise. Departing from its standard OVA adaptations, a full 25-episode series was put into production. Retelling the original story, the anime would attempt to do something no one had thought of, casting away the series' trademark romantic subplots. Instead of Ogami in the lead role, this time Sakura took the spotlight. Sakura Wars TV was experimenting with something new, seeing if the series' characters and plot could last on their own. This move, however, turned out to be a winning tactic, as the Sakura Wars TV show became the pinnacle of animation for the franchise at large, setting the bar for those who come after, and proving once and for all that fans love the series for its characters and less for the romance. While the OVAs had taken a minor stamp on the world at large, Sakura Wars TV would prove to be something bigger. What had once been a niche sector of anime had become a rather major contender overnight. Sakura Wars was known the world over for amazing animation, characters, and storytelling. It would seem that nothing could touch this franchise other than solid gold. But could this gold translate into a successful sequel? Once again, Red Company was beset with another improbable task of creating a third success story. However, this time, they couldn't do it on their own. A second developer had to be brought in. The developer of the Dreamcast smash hit Skies of Arcadia, Overworks, was brought on board. Now with more manpower on their side than ever before, the teams could take the time to craft a perfect experience. But this time, they would be building it from the ground up. New consoles mean new engines, but what Red Company & Co. truly needed was a name. In true series fashion, another war-related quote was chosen, and coincidentally had everything to deal with the series' new location, Paris. Peri wa Motoruka, or Is Paris Burning, is a famous quote said by the epitaph of evil, Adolf Hitler, as he ordered German soldiers to burn the city down as they were fleeing the Allied invasion during World War II. The city did not burn, however, as the then general in charge, Dietrich von Schultz, had grown to love the city for its beauty and couldn't bear to tear it down due to the insane orders of the madman that was Hitler. Once again, a piece of history agreed with Heroi that his romanticized vision of the world was not his alone. while Paris in reality did not have to rebuild. Heroi's Paris was just taking shape. Unlike the second entry that built atop the original, Sakura Wars 3, in all aspects, was built from the ground up. The story would be similar to the original. Ogami is thrown into a similar situation to the original Sakura Wars, and has come to Paris to study abroad, not to fight the demonic horde again. But fate has different plans in store for him, as he once again meets another clumsy hero in Erica Fontaine, who has a tendency to run into signs and pull out her guns for no apparent reason. She isn't the only unique member of the cast, as it has to be the most diverse one yet. A Nordic Viking, a Vietnamese circus performer, a Romanian master criminal, and a French-Japanese widow round them out. While in the past, the cast was primarily Japanese, this time they were as diverse in ethnicity and personality as they could be. At times, the original Sakura Wars Hanagumi could be fit into several overarching stereotypes. This time, they were as unique as they could get. The story took a unique twist too. Instead of a group of demons combating the heroes, this time they were individuals seemingly attacking out of the blue in a more of a Monster of the Week type style, in true anime fashion, as the series was wrote. This gave more time to develop the characters, as the Paris Hanagumi were then unknowns. Sakura Wars 3 was also a chance for Red Company to dive headfirst into Parisian culture and break away from their very apparent Japanese sensibilities. For example, take Chat Noir, the theater the girls perform in. Unlike the Grand Imperial Theater, where Japanese and Western style plays are performed, Chat Noir performs cabaret, a variety show with song, music, dance, and a little bit of drama. Chat Noir itself is based off the real-life Le Chat Noir, located in Paris. The establishment is thought to be the birthplace of the first modern style of cabaret, a nightclub where patrons sat at tables while drinking alcoholic beverages and being entertained by the variety show on stage. The series' new Parisian sensibilities plunges the player into a new and exotic culture, one that is more understandable to a Western player than an Eastern one. French culture doesn't just invade the story. This new aesthetic is carried over throughout the game, with Art Nouveau UI elements, French folk, classical, and stage musical styles, and the can-can flavor of the Chat Noir performances. But the culture and plot weren't the only things that changed. In a major departure from the original 2, the isometric top-down gameplay of Yold was stripped out in favor of a system that took advantage of the Dreamcast's new capabilities. Rebranded with its new acronym of ARMS, or Active in Real-Time Machine System, combat leaves the 2.5D dimension and fully enters the 3D realm. Instead of a grid-like system determining your movement, now the full 3D range is at your disposal. To keep the series' roots intact, action points were added in. These controlled how you moved and fought, performing multiple attacks, one large super attack, and defending were just some of the options you had. The new system let Sakura Wars finally stand out from the strategy RPG crowd, as it now had something all its own. Similar to the improved combat system, Sakura Wars 3 brings along a fully revamped experience across the board, with a high-resolution, full-frame art causing the previous games to feel cramped and quaint because of their hardware limitations. The free-roaming sections of the adventure mode now take place not only within the theater, but within a fully 3D section of Paris. The result of all this makes clear how much the generational leap from Sega Saturn to Dreamcast meant to the series. Speaking of which, all the Dreamcast hardware gimmicks are put to use. While the lip system is still similar in nature to the original, a few new options take advantage of these gimmicks, such as having a type where you use the new analog stick to determine not just what you are saying, but how strongly you are saying it, speaking not too timidly nor too forcefully for the circumstance. The Dreamcast's new VMU technology that's connected directly to the controller represents a mobile kinematron communication device, a steam-powered messaging system that was ever so slightly used in the second entry. Gimmickry aside, with a new generation of consoles came a new set of sensibilities. The question was, would Sakura Wars 3's Parisian influences drive away fans of old, or bring them back for more? The answer is expected, yet not as grand as you think. Selling less than the originals at 330,000 copies, the third entry had many things to compete with, such as a brand new console war and a new cast. Still, even at that number, Sakura Wars 3 became the 8th highest grossing Sega Dreamcast game in Japan, right next to where the original stood, with the same critical acclaim that the series had previously earned. This new Sakura Wars entry had also become an accidental miracle, as it was the first entry to directly appeal to Western audiences. Sakura Wars, a series that had previously catered to Japan, was now in a position to take on the world. Sakura Wars is quite the mystery. Its characters, while bizarre at times, have become some of the most personable and recognizable in Japanese culture. Even when tackling another culture, the teams at Red Company and Overworks were still able to craft an experience that appealed not only to their culture, but to the one they were portraying. It seemed the Sakura Wars series could not be defined by one culture, but was instead defined by its great stories and characters, something some series only wish they could do. Even within the failings of the console that held these together, one shining light could be seen. Could the dream ever die? Tune in next time to see the dream collapse. Well, hello my fellow Naganeers, and thanks again for watching another episode of Blossom. I hope you all like the series as I continue to improve from here on. So like, subscribe, and comment below to let me know how I'm improving. You can click the GIF in the right hand corner to check out my Sakura Wars 3 Let's Play to get an idea of the game. And you can subscribe, look at the playlist, or go to my Sakura Wars channel to check out more Sakura Wars content. Anyway, that's it for me. Keep being awesome, viewer, and continue the thirst for knowledge.